elected. And what I'm basing this on is some analyses I did of the parties, because we have the birth of the parties. With the Democratic candidates, I haven't really done a lot of analysis on which one will be nominated or which one will win the nomination. But just based upon what I've seen so far, the Democratic Party looks rather fragmented. It looks rather isolated, or not isolated, excuse me, fragmented. It looks rather it looks a little bit in shambles, to be truthful. They do have a chance of assuming power from taking many more seats in the fall, and I think that'll happen. But I don't think they'll win the presidency. So I'm going on record right now as saying that, and I've gone on record saying that already. The other thing is, now again, any astrologer can be wrong. There could be certain revelations, especially, and we have two really important transits coming up, and there are going to be 6 eclipses in 2020. So we're going to have one in January 10th of 2020. We'll have one in June, I believe a couple in June, a couple in July, and one in October, and one I believe in October or November. And all these eclipses, except for the one in the fall, will occur in Sagittarius and Gemini. So again, those are mutable signs. You know, it's kind of an open field, but like I said, I just don't think that I think we're going to see another 4 years of Donald Trump, or maybe less if he gets ill in office, which is actually a distinct possibility. The other thing is, with the moon being where it is in the chart, the moon's in a lunar mansion called, I have to look it up, called Purvabhadra, which is essentially, it's a Jupiterian lunar mansion, so it will essentially be expansive, not contractive. So I don't think you'll see any shifts or any major upsets to the economy this year. The United States has entered what's called a 7.5-year period of Saturn in Vedic astrology. And usually these particular periods indicate challenges to a country, but not necessarily economic challenges. So the last Sati the United States went through was in the 1990s. So when President Clinton was in office, and we had essentially a really long economic expansion. If we're looking at the United States chart, the United States chart is in a Rahu Mahadasha. Rahu's in the 8th house in the U.S. chart, so we're going to become a little bit more secluded or isolated. Up until World War I, and after World War I, and up until World War II, we were really sort of an isolationist nation. We engaged in certain foreign exchanges when it affected our interests directly, but it wasn't, I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. It wasn't something that we actually sought out. There were small events that we took part in, but it really wasn't until after World War II that we became an active agent for in the world. So you'll start, and that's where a lot of the anti-immigrant stuff is coming from. That's where a lot of the isolationism or the trade protectionism is coming from. It's actually part of U.S. history, and we don't know this because we grew up in a period in which the United States was all over the place. It was involved with everybody. It seems like we're moving back into a major planetary period where we're more concerned with our own internal stuff and our own internal needs. It doesn't mean we'll be totally isolated. We're too strong, we're too powerful a country to be totally isolated from the rest of the world. And I'm not saying that arrogantly, it's just a fact. It's like, you know, it's, the United States has, I think it really is the largest military in the world. So essentially, and it's the largest economy in the world. Whether or not it maintains that status is really another question, whether or not China overtakes us, but I don't think it will. I think I'm getting flashbacks to when we were worried about Japan overtaking us, and that won't happen for at least another, from what I can see from the charts in the Mahadashas, that won't happen for at least another 60 or 70 years. It's not really imminent. The other thing, so let me look at and identify some trouble spots in the world for you. But there will be a change for a lot of people who are Gemini and Sagittarius. They'll experience some relief starting around late January of this year because Saturn will be changing signs, so that'll be good for it. And around August, they'll be experiencing some more relief, mainly because Rahu and Ketu will be changing signs. So Rahu does give certain benefits, so it can make Gemini risings very famous, it can help them succeed career-wise, all those other things, but it does tend to be very tough on domestic life. And it also makes a person worry about whether or not they're achieving too much or not achieving enough, excuse me. And overall from charts I've seen so many, and I think I told you this in many broadcasts, so many people with prominent Geminis and Sagittarius is undergoing a lot of struggles. So whether it be their moon sign, their sun sign, their certain sensitive houses in the chart, those houses are getting hit. And I'll talk about the overall impact on the signs because essentially in Indian astrology you can take a starting point and analyze an entire period of time based upon where the starting point is. So it's pretty interesting. You can do it in Western astrology too. It's called, it's what they call a horary chart. But horaries aren't really used for long-term predictions, but you can actually take, so this is the birth of the year. We're taking December 31st to January 1st as being the birth of the year. And the year will have a certain flavor and character to it. Okay? So, let's go and look at the astro mapping locations. Okay, so we have, and this is a system called astrocartography. It's a relatively, it's not an old system, but it's been around for a while. It's not an ancient system. It's just, but it was developed in the 20th century. And if we're looking at the chart, and we're looking at where there'll be major disruptions in government, we can see certain parts of the western United States, and also maybe even increasing isolation happening in the western United States and in Mexico. Mexico is, now this is something that's kind of interesting because I was looking a few weeks ago, and we were looking at earthquakes and potential for earthquakes and for violence. And we did have, I did have several hits on that when I was looking at it a few weeks ago. But I think it's interesting because a Rahu line is passing over Yosemite, is passing close to California, and I think you'll see more activity, more, I'm not necessarily predicting a volcano in the super volcano will explode in Yosemite, but I think that part of the country is going to get hit with really some bad weather and some bad earthquakes. Rahu line passes through really southern Chile. There's a Rahu line passing through England, France, Spain, and northern Africa, all the way down through the tiny country of Gabon, which is really, like, if you look at Africa, it's like right here at that little lip in Africa. And the other parts which look dangerous to me or look like there's a great deal of potential for us unrest would tend to be Mars, Indonesia. We actually got a hit on that. The Philippines, we actually got a hit on that over the past couple of week or so. And Japan, Now, this doesn't necessarily mean Japan will get an earthquake, but there'll be some violence. And also Saudi Arabia. And Saturn also goes up through Germany, so there'll probably be some civil unrest in Germany and Sweden and Norway, it looks like from the chart. The interesting thing about these lines is, as I said before, you really can't tell what they are, but the characteristics of the planet. Rahu causes fear and panic, so that's potentially earthquake or some other kind of disaster. Mars causes violence, so Mars and Saturn causes a certain amount of destruction. So Saturn's passing through Venezuela, Argentina, and Rahu is passing through Chile. So that part of the world is very vulnerable over the next year. And Rahu is passing over, as I said before, England, so that'll cause some fear and some panic. So that'll probably be, I guess, something connected with Brexit. Maybe there'll be some civil unrest in the United Kingdom and in Spain and France. Germany has a Saturn line going through it. Germany and Italy have Saturn lines going through them. So that part of the country will have some economic problems and also some problems with preserving traditional values. Mars is passing through Saudi Arabia. Again, Iraq, Central Europe, so that's gun violence or fires. Also Eastern Africa. And the other trouble spots I indicated before, Saturn is passing over, it looks like Ceylon, Vietnam, and the other line that I'm a little bit worried about is Rahu passing over Indochina, what used to be called French Indochina, which is now Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and up into China, up into the middle of China. So I think China is going to be experiencing some civil unrest next year, or some economic downturns. As far as the individual signs go, and I'm not leaving myself a lot of time for this, and I apologize, most signs, the overall effect of this cluster of planets around Sagittarius is more connected with religious institutions, government institutions, so you'll start to see reform efforts. I've also said several times you're going to see a lot of what I would call phony gurus show up, or phony leaders or phony teachers show up. So it'd be tough to tell the real people, the really good people, from the bad people without a scorecard. The signs, as we go through the signs, Aries will experience some disruption in the workplace, some disruption in supervisors, although career luck will be good. But they'll have to really take charge of themselves. Taurus will experience some trouble in relationship life during the year, more arguments than normal, but also more financial progress than normal. Gemini will have increased opportunities for fame or reputation, but again, relationship life will not be all that spectacular. They'll find themselves waiting at least until late January to get into a suitable relationship, if they're not in one already, and until the end of January before the relationship life settles down, at least from the chart. And it'll still take a couple of years for it to really solidify and really produce good results. Cancer is actually going to have a relatively good year relationship-wise. It'll have a good year in terms of past life luck and property, but it'll be susceptible to health issues over the next few months. So a lot of the Cancer suns, that's July 15th to August 15th, should watch out for their health overall. Leos look like they'll have changeable relationships, changeable relationship partners, some problem with children, and some problem with past life credit, and also some romantic, and also some problems with women overall, even if they're women themselves. Virgo, this is again September 15th or October 15th, just to give you some bearings. Looks like it'll have a lot of focus on education, a lot of focus on status, they'll actually assume high positions of power, but temporarily. So what I mean by that is they'll get promoted, they'll get this this large seat at the table, but number one, they won't have a lot of credibility. Number two, it'll be fleeting. It won't last that long. If they can hold on to that position until the end of the year, until around October and November, it'll become permanent. If they can't, it'll start to work against them. Okay. So essentially, they'll find themselves losing power. Libra has basically good home life, good financial life, a lot of courage this year, a lot of courage to try new things. And this goes for Libra moon, Libra rising sign, Libra sun, and a lot of energy. And it looks like overall a very lucky year for Librans, to be truthful. They'll have some fame, they'll have some opportunities to travel, they'll also have good luck in the romantic department. For Scorpios, Scorpios have good willpower, good financial luck, but intermittent. It'll be broken up a little bit. Not a large willingness to take chances and also change their residence. Basically, for Sagittarius, Sagittarius looks like that sign looks like it's going to be bombarded with a lot of issues this year in terms of health, but they'll always bounce back. This sign is a very resilient sign, number one, but it'll also have a lot of opportunities to bounce back. Capricorn has Venus in the first house. It's great, but it'll have a lot of expenses this year. So there'll be romantic opportunities, and there'll also be friendships and new activities coming up, but they'll also have to really focus on keeping expenses under control. Aquarius looks like it'll have a good year. It is in what's called a Sade Sati after January 24th, so there'll be some restriction on its movement, but that won't be too long. And it looks like an overall good year in terms of financial success and even in terms of reputation and fame. For Pisces, Pisces has, again, a pack, like Sagittarius, a packed full career life. It'll have a lot of activity in its career, and the only problem it has to watch out for is indulging too much in intoxicants or indulging too much in self-praise. But it looks to be a good year for Pisces overall. All right, so that's it for this week. I'm not sure when this will air, but I will be back on in, as far as I know, this program is continuing. I'm trying to expand to other programs, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, that's it for me for this show. I wish you all a wonderful new year, and namaste.